So I guess we get started. Can everyone hear me okay? It's all good? So I'm gonna talk about a module called AI Automators today. Last time I talked about this was Drupal Dev Days. I was the last session on the last day. Everyone was tired and wanted to go home. So this is definitely a lot better. And thank you for so much people actually coming on the first session. I did a little bit too many slides, so I'm gonna have to cut out some stuff. How many people here knows about the Drupal AI module and the background of it? So most people. I'm a developer that I'm working with a company called Freely Give. I've been working there since 1 year, but this particular module I've been working for almost 3 years now, I think. So I work with almost exclusively with AI integrations, so both in-house and a lot of things that we release for open source. So I'm working with the AI module, I'm working with the AI agents module. These are the topics for today, so what we're gonna go through. So what is AI workflow? Because that's basically what AI Automator is trying to solve. And how does the AI Automator solve it in its very special way? Because there are a lot of software for AI workflows that also have a lot of different solutions for this. I'm gonna sprinkle in some best practices and examples during the talk. If the internet is working well, I will also showcase some stuff that I have set up before, what the automators actually can solve. I will talk a little bit about the future in Drupal CMS, and the reason for this is I'm actually part of the lightning talks tomorrow, so please come and see that, where I will actually talk about how the automators is gonna be used for Drupal CMS specifically. Yep. Oh, should I get closer? Is this better? Perfect. Okay. I will skip the last part because most people seem to know the AI module here. So what is an AI workflow? To explain that, I will actually start on the other thing that is very much popular now, which is AI agents. How many here has used Drupal CMS and the AI assistants? So the chatbot where you can like create field types and stuff like that. So this is based then on AI agents, and the agents then they work like they're autonomous. They can have predefined restrictions, but they usually have a lot of tools they can work with, and they can pick basically how they're using these tools. Agents usually can hand over to other agents, so one agent specializes in something and then it can hand over to another agent. They loop over their instructions and tools that they have. So a tool can be, for instance, how do I create a field config in Drupal? How do I store it? And it just loops over this until it feels that it got it right, basically. They can also learn from interactions, and they can adapt to new instructions. So this is interesting when you're actually creating agents that when we did this for Drupal CMS, we had like a list of 40 different instructions that the actual agents has to be able to solve. But then when it goes out into the real world, since this is a chatbot where you can write whatever you want inside it, there actually came a lot of other use cases we hadn't thought about. And a lot of those actually was solved because the agent can solve it by itself without us having to pre-plan this in some way. So this is a graph how an agent can look like. You put in some text. In this case, the field agent loops over some of its tools and outputs its text with the results, hopefully solving whatever question you have. And if you want to know more about swarms, Jamie is going to talk about that at 1:30 today. If you want to know more about how to build your own agents, you can go to Vincenzo's talk at 3 o'clock today. Oh, sorry. So the what are AI workflows then? So AI workflows are typically linear, static, and they follow a pre-planned step-by-step process. They can have conditionals in them, but usually they follow a very, very predefined process. And this, I think, is maybe the most important thing where it actually can be used in production already today. So I used to work in a company that actually is using this in a Fortune 500 company. And these are the processes that it's great at. So extracting data, extracting unstructured data into structured data. So taking a PDF with some free-flowing text, for instance, and finding an integer in there, or finding an image in there, or whatever it could be. And yeah, they usually have a structured input, so some kind of input they are looking for. It could be an image, for instance, and some kind of structured output state where it actually ends up. So it could be a text, a number, whatever. So first I'm gonna showcase a very simple example here. Advertisement brand guide verification workflow. So this is taking an image advertisement. So say this scenario, you work at Coca-Cola, you have a competition like create an advertisement for us, and you want to do some pre-screening on things that definitely doesn't follow the brand guidelines. So you upload an image of an advertisement, you have a process that looks at this image, reads the brand guidelines, and tries to figure out, does this follow this? And you output it then with a rating and a reasoning in this case. And the reason we have it in one field is because you want the rating and the reasoning to be joined. So the actual rating, it says it should reason based on that. Such a workflow when you use the automators takes around 10 minutes to set up. You don't have to write code. Running one image would cost around 2 cents. If you use, I use Anthropic in this case. Takes around 7 to 10 seconds to run one image. So this is the PDF that I used for this. So it's actually 80 pages long. But what you can do when you work with these brand guidelines, style guides, stuff like this that you want to follow, a very good tip there is that you use the reasoning models like O1, O3, DeepSeek R1, and so on. Upload this and tell it, I want a system prompt for this. And they are actually very good at generating system prompts that are compressed in token size, meaning you don't have to pay so much money. So it's talking about the target group, it's talking about how the logo looks like. And I upload this, which is a very bad advertisement if you're doing Coca-Cola Zero. The slogan is bad, the font is wrong, the target group is wrong, the zero is also very, very wrong. It's skewed, it's wrong color. You run it through the automators and you get something like this. It gives it a rating 3 and it tells it why it's bad and what actually was good. So it had a black background, for instance, which follows the brand guidelines then. And the advantage then of AI workflows is that they are consistent, because you know how it's gonna process everything instead of like an agent that might take different decisions every time you ask it something. Currently, at least in Drupal, it will save money for you and it will be faster, because currently basically we are aware of the output format of one part of the chain and the input format of one part of the chain. So you don't need a LLM in between there to convert it in some way. And the most important thing with them is that when you actually get them working, they do work. So if you actually have set up something that you can see over and over, it's giving back 100% success rate, then most likely it will just continue working. And one of the reason workflows or agents is hard is the opposite of this. So how many people knows this term? Compounding interest, like let your money earn money. So if you have 5% interest, it's gonna be a lot more than a linear 5% what you earn after 20 years. So there is something similar called compounding error rate. So if you think about this example, And this was something then that I did in my old company. So what we wanted to know is how are people tweeting about a specific company that we were doing crisis communication for. And when we started setting them up, we saw like some of them maybe just had 80% success rate. So take a screenshot of a tweet. Might not sound super complicated. You use a browser, open it, take a screenshot. But due to us Europeans, I guess, sometimes there's a cookie banner there, for instance. So it's a fail because you just take a screenshot of a cookie banner. And if you then have 5 of these things and they are connected and they have 80% success rate, anyone can guess what the final success rate is for the actual workflow? Any guesses? 35. That's very good. 33%. So 1 time out of 3, this would succeed, which is, of course, unacceptable for almost anything. And okay, so we're gonna give another example now then. I hope you know this guy in US as well. I've been in Las Vegas and he's everywhere there at least. So he comes to you and says, I want a recipe website. We have Umami in Drupal, luckily, so we don't actually have to create a website. And he wants you to take all his 500 recipe videos, look at them, and write out all the recipes for them in a structured format. So like the ingredients, preparation time, take a screenshot from it and upload to your website and so on. And he tried it with some interns. It takes 35 to 40 minutes to fill out one video. So it's never gonna happen in his deadline, which is 24 hours. And if you don't, follow Gordon Ramsay, this happens. Start screaming at you. So we can use the automators for this. So I'm actually gonna try something. I hope the internet is good enough. I have pre-processed one part of this, which is the downloading part. So you have a video here, a YouTube link. And that is the only thing we're gonna fill in. So a YouTube link, we have to fill in a title in Drupal. That's just how nodes works in Drupal. But you will see that everything that's automated here is still not filled in. You can see I have downloaded the video file. So that's one part of the actual workflow in this case. So I'm just gonna trigger this. And we continue here because that's gonna take 1-2 minutes. So this is what's happening now in the background. You put in a title, you put in a YouTube video link, it downloads that YouTube video. So this I already pre-did because I didn't know if the internet would be good here. Then it summarizes by looking at this video and listening to this video, all the different things that you need for the Umami websites. Puts this in a big text blob just, and from that text blob we can start extracting everything. And the reason you want to do that is that this looking at video is pretty heavy on your hardware, so you just want to do it once basically. But it's doing one more second step. So there's another automator process that can take a screenshot based on a prompt. So you basically tell it, find the best screenshot where you see the dish and take a screenshot of this and upload. This took 40 minutes to set up. Oh, I will say this also. At the end of this talk, I will give you a link to a place where you can see me setting this up. So you can set it up yourself and actually see that this actually works. 0 lines of code. One video costs 14 cents to run through. So if you have 500 video, that's $70. So not super expensive. It takes 2.5 minutes because there's a lot of processing, but you can run it in parallel in theory. So you can have it finished quite fast. But yeah, instead of seeing the results there, let's see if we got it here. So here we go. So it has looked through the video and filled out all these different fields for us now, like ingredients, directions, and so on. If they don't say exact ingredients, exact preparation time, in this case, I have told it to extrapolate, like try to reason how long time would this take to make, for instance. But that is, you're controlling the prompt, so you can also say don't fill this in if you can't find any actual information about it. So that's that. So how does the AI automators work then? So the mental model of the AI automators is actually quite easy. So the first step is what fields data do we need? And this is not different from any data modeling you're doing today in Drupal. It's using the fields API, field UI. So you can say, okay, I want an integer here, or I want a HTML field here, or whatever it can be. The second step is specific for the AI automators, because when you set up a field, you can basically say, I want to enable AI automators on this, and then the question you have to ask yourself, how should AI fill out this specific field? And this can then be based on chains. So if you take the example that you scrape a website and summarize it, you of course have to scrape it before you can summarize it. So you have a link field going to a HTML field where you scrape it, and then you have a summary field that takes from the HTML field. So that is the third question then, what order should we do this? So when you're using field UI, you just get this checkbox, enable AI automator, and you just check this, and the first drop down is basically processes. These are the different processes that you can use. So they can range anything then from extracting an integer from a text, or well, something complex like looking at a video, or go to Google Maps and find the actual correct address for whatever the person is looking for. These processes are plugin based in Drupal, so that means that if the automator has all the steps you need, but it's maybe missing one critical step for your specific business, you can just create a plugin. It's just one file you have to create for this to make it available. So the plugins.
Check 1, check 2.
Okay. Check, check.
Like check.
Okay. AI. Maybe it's my computer.
Like check. How's everybody feeling? Check 1, check 2.
Okay. Well, I hope you can hear me anyway if I talk over maybe. So basically the plugin declares what fields it can populate then, and then it declares what context it can take, which is basically what fields can you use to create this as well. And it can use tokens, meaning that you can create a prompt that uses 10 fields as the context for the next thing you're doing. And the logic of it is actually very, very simple. It populates when it's not populated, which means that if you want a human in the loop, you can also fill out specific fields by yourself. The editor can fill these out, and then the AI doesn't do anything. Or the fields that the AI filled out was maybe not correct, so then the human can go in and just fix them. So they have weights, that's how you control the order when they are being triggered, and they have different processor plugins. So you can decide if they basically should run directly on the node save, but since a lot of LLM stuff can take a long time, you're just sitting there waiting for the LLM, it might time out. So because of that, you can use Batch API, where it's using JavaScript to run each of this by itself. You can use Q API, so run it via cron, or after cron, I guess. There's an OB flush method, so that's if you're working with APIs, the API can give back a response that, okay, the process has started, the web server answers, but the PHP process continues in the background and does all this stuff, and then you can start polling against this. Or the most powerful way, I would say, is let ECA decide, because then all of a sudden you can add conditionals in there and do anything you can do with the ECA. So any automator you set up becomes an action in ECA if you want. And the processors, as I said, they can be something as simple as taking a text and creating a text, or something extremely complex. I think we have around 90 to 100 different automator types now. Because of the Drupal AI module, we're supporting a lot of services. I think it's up to 40 services or something like that that it supports now, but more is on the way. What does it solve then? Well, it is its unique way of solving AI workflows that is very Drupal-y. you can chain processes, you have the flexibility to build a plugin. And this is actually quite important. So when I built this like a couple of years ago, I thought it was super annoying. So you have 5 steps, for instance, and you only care about the input and the output step, and then you have 3 fields that gets filled out all the time, and they're just garbage. They're just lying there until you put this in production and something goes wrong. And then you realize, okay, I created an audit trail here. So you can actually see exactly where something goes wrong when you have stored all this. So there are actually solutions where you can get rid of the things in the middle now, but I would recommend for anyone, at least in the beginning when you're setting up these, just keep all the fields there, because that is an audit trail. The cool thing with that as well, you can do partial trial and error. Say that the 3 first steps works, the 4th fails, which means that the 5th fails. Well, then you can just empty the 4th, write a new prompt, click save, and see if that worked. So you can try over and over. You don't have to run the whole process over and over. This is something that we want to do better. So it can be reverted in version, but currently only via Git, which means that you need a developer. And we're trying to do everything so site builders can do it. Because it is chained, you can set up workflows where it can be audited by another LLM, or you can have a pre-step where a local LLM checks, like, are there any business secrets here before we send it out to the LLM in the cloud? Or if you don't know which LLM to trust, you can have this thing where it reasons and sets a rating for something via OpenAI, and then maybe have Anthropic basically looking, and you have a prompt that is, please look at this, do you agree with this? And where they don't agree, well, then you have to go in and look why they don't agree. So second example time, we're gonna make a talk show with 2 people recommending sessions here in DrupalCon Atlanta. I need someone here who might be undecided where they want to go to tell me what you're interested in this DrupalCon, which kind of keynotes. Could be experience builder, AI, whatever.
I'll do it.
Yeah. Then, no, you can just tell me. I'm just gonna fill it in here. So, what would you be interested in? Experience builder, AI? Is there something specific?
Yeah, there was one that looked really interesting, and I can't now.
So it's not a specific keynote. This is gonna find the keynote based what you're interested in.
Okay, plugins.
Plugins, okay. Let's see what it can find on that. So I'm not just gonna click save here now. This is gonna take some time, so while it's running this, I will show what it's doing. So there's actually 2 steps of this, and this you can see in the video then. Because the initial thing was I needed all the keynotes locally, and it was like enough to be annoying to write, manually transfer them, but still creating a migration script also takes some time. So there is like this magic middle there where the automators actually can work as a migration tool for you. So what you can do is if there is a public website, well, it has to be a public website for this to work, but you can scrape any page on a public website, and then you basically just tell for each field, how do I want to extract this? And there are, just so you know, there are plugins that are pure extracting plugins, doesn't use LLM, doesn't cost any money. So you can actually extract an email, for instance, or a website or something from HTML if you want to do that without it needing to go to LLM. So that was the first thing. We needed to get all the actual keynotes on the website. Takes 10 minutes. Amazy has this plugin, actually. You can try it out for free. So if you go to their booth, you can learn more about it. So if you want to try some of this stuff, they actually have free keys up to a certain value. If you were to use OpenAI, it's like 2 cents per content. So of course, if you're gonna migrate 10,000 web pages, 100,000 web pages, don't use this method. But if you have like 1 content type, 100 pages, it's It's perfect. Takes 10 minutes to set up, costs a couple of dollars, and you have migrated everything. But here is then the actual thing it's doing now. So I put in this Keynote preferences plugins in this case. It's searching using something called RAG. I'm not going to explain it. I have no time. But if you're interested, there is actually a talk about this by Christoph at 3 o'clock today. Then I tell it to write a script based on 2 fictive characters and create audio files for it. Last step, it merged those files into MP3 file, which is our talk show. Took 50 minutes to set up, cost around 10 cents per talk show you want to create. And let's see, I will play around 1 minute of this, and I hope the sound works now.
Hey there, Drupal lovers. This is Jane, your go-to gal for a good time and some tech talk.
And this is Pete, here to provide the straight facts on Drupal conferences and keynotes.
Pete, our user friend, is searching for keynotes about plugins at DrupalCon Atlanta. What's your top pick?
Great choice. I'd recommend creating composer-aware modules with Drupal Core's new Package Manager module. By Tedbo on Tuesday, March the 25th at 13:30, it dives into leveraging Composer for module creation.
Composer, huh? Sounds like musical magic in the coding world. What else should our friend not miss?
Another one is Automate, Integrate, Innovate, AI-powered GitLab CI for Drupal module development by Y.
Yeah, you get the idea. So the prompt is basically that this host should be a little bit funny, make jokes, as you heard, and the other one should be like expert on the topic. So let's talk about this hype train versus actual usage. This was very much hype, like gimmicky thing. There is actually one use case I did in the old company for a CEO of a company, where they actually wanted to know, I want to know the last week's comments on our website. He was American-based, he was sitting in a car a lot, and he actually wanted this in a podcast. And this is actually something you can use it for. So you can actually create an audio file for someone so they can listen in the car. There is the podcast module for Drupal, meaning you just get it in your iPhone whenever it runs every week. Yeah, so some background to this. Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google, said this, and this is very true. So if you talk about the large language models, maybe not ChatGPT, which is an app, but when you're talking directly to the large language models, hallucinations, that is a feature. It's not a bug. Because that is basically the creativity part of a large language model. If you would ask it to just generate an image of a cow and it would be deterministic and just create the same image over and over, it would have no use, right? And if you think about the word made up, it's the actual word doesn't differ between making up Lord of the Rings, which is a super good thing, and making up some fact, which is a bad thing, right? This I saw on Reddit sometimes, so I can't attribute it to the exact Reddit user, and this is not technically correct, but it's a very good way of thinking when you work with large language models. So basically LLM is like a participant on Jeopardy that like pressed the button, and now they have to answer something. And if you don't tell them like you lose money if you answer wrong or something, well, they're gonna try, because that's how humans works as well. Like if you think about what is the capital of Turkey? I had to check this up before because this is a typical question where a lot of people gets it wrong. Because I would think Istanbul, right? Biggest city, that's where you would connect it, but it isn't. So it, yeah, kind of works similarly. And the solution to this is, always provide context, always make sure when you're talking to the LLM, like you give it facts and ask about those facts. And you can even tell it like, if you don't know this, please do not answer anything or answer that I don't know.
So will it ever say I don't know?
If you do tell it like that. And of course, apps like ChatGPT, they have this built into the prompt, so they will do it nowadays. But when like GPT 3.5 was released, it was hallucinating a lot. So I will just I will share the slides after. I just wrote down some powerful examples you can set up in 10 minutes, but I don't have time to go through them, I see now. So if you get this slide after, you can look at different stuff you can do. But this is just like a tiny fraction of what you can actually achieve with this. So let's talk a little bit about broader reusability. So if you have an automator like this, in this case it takes a URL and an image upload. So the idea is you scrape an image, try to find the image that is most similar to the image you uploaded. As said before, the only thing you really care about if you know that the process is working is the input and the output. And because of this, we have something called disposable automator chains. And this is basically just another entity type that is made for running these chains, and if wanted, destroy itself after. So that's a way we can solve where you just want the input and the output. There's a helper function for this. So if you set up a chain like this, you can just run this line of code, and you put in this case, the URL and the image ID, you get the image ID out, which image was the closest to it. So any kind of chain you set up, you can run like this if you want. And this is, of course, interesting because that means that we can start reusing it in other places. So we have a new structure now for AI agents. So that's something that both Jamie and Vincenzo will be talking about. So I recommend that you go to those talks where we are integrating now tool usage into the AI agents. So a tool is basically some kind of process doing something with like inputs, parameters, and it outputs some text to the agent basically, and this is what it can loop over and over. And since we have this input and the output in the automators, basically in the GUI, you can say, these are the fields that are the input fields, these are the fields that are the output fields, and then write some like description, what this tool is doing, what is the title of this tool, and so on. So in this case, so there's a video for this as well. So in this case, I have done automator chain that looks at a free text. So basically like a search field in Google Maps, searches for a candidate for this using Google Places, extracts the reviews, and summarizes the reviews. So in this case, you in the assistant talk to this agent and you ask, can you tell me what people say about Tiffany's at Rockefeller Center? This then uses this tool with the input parameter Tiffany's at Rockefeller Center. The automator processes everything and gives back, here's a summary of the reviews, and then the chatbot responds with this. So that's one way of reusing it. The other thing is then we have a module in the AI suite that's called the AI CKEditor. And in that case, it's quite similar. It has a strict input, which is HTML, a CKEditor field it takes as input, and it outputs a HTML field. So as long as you create an automator that takes an input that is a HTML field, and we have some helper functions there. So if someone, for instance, marks an image, you can have the input that is an image or a media field, for instance, and some other kind of fields like this. It runs through this chain and produces HTML. Well, then you have created your own business-specific automator chain for CKEditor. So in this case, you mark an image of something, an LLM will look at it and see if it recognizes this. So this is in Paris, next to the Eiffel Tower. Then it will take this and search in Google Places, in this case, and get the address back. So this is the address for this image, for instance. And you can do extremely business-specific things here, of course. So Drupal CMS and the future of the automators then. So we have started building on a widget framework. It's being built right now, and the idea behind this widget framework is basically that on any field widget that exists in Drupal, on any value that you might need to fill in, there should be a widget for this. So you can set a button that starts, well, the idea is any type of automation framework. So not just AI Automators, it could be ECA, it could be Drupal Actions. And then you have every step of every widget and AI workflow module you can set up as a configuration. So if you think about the module, I don't know if anyone tried it in Drupal CMS, there's the AI image alt text module, where you can get the alt text by uploading a video. And this is okay. So I wrote this module. I will say negative things about it, but I wrote the module. So this is okay, but it's very generic, because the problem, it doesn't have context. So if you have an image of something like a paella, it might look like a risotto, or it might look like jambalaya, or, can be hard to know exactly what kind of rice this dish this is. And if you don't know the context of the article, it's even harder. So it creates something extremely generic, like this is a rice dish or something like that. If you use the automators, we can take in any context, meaning that if you have a blog post about how you ate paella in Valencia or something like that, you can take the whole text when you're generating this alt text and get alt text that is just better in terms of accessibility. And this is an example then where it's actually not generating the main value of the widget, because an image widget is for uploading images. What is creating here is the alt text. So that's what we're trying to add here, that you can actually, on any of these different things that you might have to fill out for a field, it should be able to create a button for this. And this is interesting because we have this architecture with default providers in Drupal AI, which means that we don't necessarily need to define in a recipe that you have to have OpenAI here, or you have to have Anthropic for this to work. We can just say you need a chat model with vision capabilities. So a chat model that can look at images, for instance. And then we can create this using recipes. So basically there's two modules that can do thousands of different business cases in Drupal where we can just create recipes for this, or where you can set them up in 10, 20 minutes. Instead of everyone trying to make their own widget module, basically. So we try to take this one step further. So from the beginning, everyone was doing widget modules that was contacting OpenAI, and that was it, including me. I did the same thing, just OpenAI for everything. And then with the AI module, basically we got the abstraction layer, so we don't care what model you have behind there. Automators solve the workflow part, and now we're trying to solve the widget part. And then we have everything end to end, so you can use site building to set up all these things on your website. In terms of automators, we need a better way in the UI to do evaluations, revisions. This is something we are working on, something we have planned. So you don't need to know Git or need to know development to do this stuff. We're working on generalizing the AI prompting field, so this doesn't have anything specific to do with the automator, but even us working on the AI module have like different ways of creating a prompt field in different modules, which is very inconsistent. So we're trying to create one way of adding the actual prompts, and where you can reuse prompts as well. This is an idea I had for a long time. I never get the time to do it, but this would make it so much more powerful. So the idea, and this should work. So the idea is basically you have your private API or some API that doesn't have a processor in AI Automators. The idea is basically upload a Swagger file, write what it is you want it to do and what you want it to output, and it can create this process for you. Another step, maybe it can make sense to move a lot of the processing to ECA. So not the UI, not the processors, but the actual thing that runs on cron job, runs on direct save and so on. We're just replicating a lot of code there that the ECA actually solves at the moment. So if ECA becomes the de facto standard, which it is already in Drupal CMS, could make sense to just move this code into ECA so we don't have to have the same code twice. Another workflow, this is a stupid workflow, but this has a purpose for this talk. We take a link of a website, scrape the website, write a simple image prompt based on the meaning of that website, create a QR code with an image background based on this image prompt. Takes 10 minutes. It's using a service called GUI AI, so there is a processor for this that can create image QR codes, and you get something like this. So this is the place you can find the videos if you want to scan the QR code now. Workflows of AI. I would suggest not to use an automator for this, actually. It is an iterative process. This image is probably not the best this can produce. It's just that I wanted to try it. I don't think we have time to go through this. I mean, what I can say about the AI module, I can say a couple of words about it because not everyone was raising their hands when I was asking before. So basically what happens was that everyone was doing all these OpenAI widget modules. I was doing something called the interpolator, and that's what's the automator now then. But I also made everything OpenAI, except I guess audio was like 11 Labs or something like that. But like 1 year ago, Kevin, who's one of the maintainers, got in contact with me and said like the AI namespace is free. We can take it. Are you interested in like joining forces and we do something that's actually reusable for the whole Drupal community? And there was this guy, Michael Gov, SEO Gov here among the contributors that had already started on an abstraction layer. So he also joined us, Jamie also joined us, and basically what we said was that, yeah, let's create an abstraction layer and let's build everything upon that. So you can use any model from any LLM or any other type of operation type. So it's not just LLMs, it's like text to image, image to text, text to audio, image classification. There's all these different things LLMs can solve that we try to abstract away. So we created the abstraction layer, AI interpolator become AI Automators. It was a horrible name. I decided in like 10 minutes that name. It's actually extrapolating, so I'm not sure even where this name came from. I was a video engineer before, so that's maybe why. We have this AI search layer, so if you go to Christoph's talk at 3 o'clock, you will learn more about this, semantic searching. And we added all the cool different widget modules that were in the OpenAI module, which was the biggest AI module at that time then. And the cool thing is what you saw here, basically. We can create automators that can become agents. We can run agents in the automator. We can create automators that works in the CKEditor and so on. So trying to work together with everything. That's all. Thank you very much. Before we take questions, I can say we have the AI channel on Drupal Slack. So anyone that wants to join in, please go there. Or if you don't like Slack, the Drupal issue queue. And on Thursday, we will be sitting in the contribution room also if someone wants to help out. Any questions? Was it confusing or was it so clear? Good. Hey.
What I want to say, you mentioned AI agents in the beginning. Does Automators heavily or in any point rely on AI agents? And if AI agents will change now because they probably will use function calling, do you have to fix all the
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the question was, now when we're rebuilding the AI agents into a new framework, we're going to do something called function calling and another thing called structured output. And the question was basically, do we need to rewrite the automators for this? And the answer is yes, but they will be backwards compatible. So the automators currently is using something called pseudo-JSON. So this was something that was very popular in the beginning when like GPT 3.5 came out, where there was no way to get that JSON back. You basically told the LLM you have to respond in a RFC 8239 JSON, something like that structure, following this structure. It is very good at doing this, but it's using a lot of tokens for this, and it doesn't always work. And because we're adding this now for the automators, we will definitely add structured output. In certain cases, we might add function calling. But so when we're adding this function calling and structured output, we're going to add another default provider that is basically chat with structured output. And if you don't happen to have that, so you're running some local model or something that might not be able to do this, the old way of doing the automators would still work, at least up until AI 2.0 or something like that. Any other questions? Nope. Then thank you very much for joining.